What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another episode of the Sports Muse podcast. I am your host, Kevin Brumley, and I am joined by my co-host, John. John, how you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me again.
No
I get
problem.
sick every time.
So we've, just posted the other day, Kansas City and the Chargers breakdown for the season. And then we are posting the Raiders and the Broncos to finish up the AFC West. So, if you like this video and you're trying to figure out what the competition's showing, make sure you check out our other videos. It will be tagged in the video. So with the Raiders, man, no longer the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders. So big change there. Last year they were 7-9, and I think a lot of people thought they were going to do worse than 7-9. I think they kind of surprised some teams. They played some teams tough. So 7-9, I feel like looking back at that season, especially with the whole Antonio Brown fiasco, I think you would take that as a Raiders fan as a bright spot. So going into their additions for this coming season, they got Nelson Agholor, which I think some Philly fans are glad to get rid of him. They weren't a big Nelson Agholor fan, even though he's a boomer bust player. 1 week, great. Next week, not so much. They got Prince Amukamara, Malik Collins, Jeff Heath, Nick Kwiatkowski, Cory Littleton, Marcus Mariota, Carl Nassib, Demarius Randall, and for some reason they signed Jason Witten. Looking at that addition, none of those names are going to blow your mind. But I feel like there's a lot of like a Jeff Heath and a Nick Kwiatkowski, Cory Littleton are those guys who are going to make the subtle differences. They got really athletic at linebacker with Littleton and Kwiatkowski. A little bit of pass rush with Malik Collins. Marcus Mariota, Tennessee's always loved Mariota. He's never produced on the field very much, but the players always loved him. That's a guy where I don't think the Raiders love Derek Carr. I think they've been looking to upgrade from Derek Carr for a while. They just can't figure out how. So I think Mariota's that insurance plan if Derek Carr doesn't, start slow out of the gate or gets injured. And then Jason Witten, I'm guessing they're just trying to bring in that veteran leadership. That's something that Gruden always looks for. What do you think about the additions?
I think Jason Witten's kind of bringing in maybe just help coach along Darren Waller, help him out a little bit, maybe more of like a player coach, not looking for much production out of him. But I think the defense, they definitely brought in talent, and it's going to help them. I don't think I guess we haven't really talked about departures yet, but with Derek Carr, Mariota, I don't really see them like giving Mariota the start over him or anything, but it's kind of Derek Carr's job to lose.
Agreed.
I like Mariota, but like you said, he's really never put it on the field. Turnovers a lot. Just careless with the ball sometimes. So, if they have to turn to him, it's probably going to turn out to be a bad season.
Yeah, probably, but who knows? Maybe it's like a Ryan Tannehill reverse. I don't know.
Yeah.
As far as departures, they didn't lose a ton. They lost, Whitehead and Daryl Worley, not Woolery. Woolery's a kid I teach in school. So losing those two, those are, two guys who played well on defense. They lost Carl Joseph, which, he's a first-round pick who, the Raiders kind of were out on since day one, I feel like. After his first season, it was rumored he was going to be traded or rumored he was going to be cut. So as far as that goes, I think they did a fairly decent job of replacing those guys with the additions they had. So, they did lose talent, but I feel like you live with it if you're Las Vegas.
Yeah, what they brought in is definitely stronger than what they lost. What was Carl Joseph? He's from WVU, right? I think so. Yeah, he was a strong safety or just real powerful hitter and everything, but yeah, there was something just like he just couldn't put it all together.
Yeah, he was one of those dudes who was athletic, ball hawked a little bit in college, but just never really panned out. And then for the Raiders draft, man, I loved it. They were one of my absolute favorite drafts this year. I thought they killed it. Henry Ruggs is the biggest question mark, and that was their first-round pick. Ruggs is one of those dudes who did not have great college production, but is an absolute burner. His touchdown rate was silly. It's like this dude touched the ball and he was getting in, putting it in for 6. It's weird because that Denver has a ton of, or I'm sorry, the Bama had a ton of great receivers, with Judy who went to Denver and whatnot. Was he outshined and, maybe slept on? We'll kind of see, but they also got Arnett. They got Lynn Bowden, which he was one of my favorite players in the draft. I love his versatility. I love what he did for Kentucky last year. He just was like, yeah, I'll play quarterback. Didn't care about himself in his, prospect, just, wanted to win. Brian Edwards, who's, I think he broke a lot of records at South Carolina. Tanner Muse is one of those dudes who's a winner. John Simpson's going to be a dude who's going to be a, plug and play sort of guy. And one of my favorite players in the draft that was, a later round pick is Amik Robertson. He's just one of those dudes who's like a 5'9", 5'10" corner who's just a gamer, man. He'll stick you. He'll ball hawk. Kind of reminds me of a Mike Hilton from Pittsburgh, who's one of my favorite players for the Steelers. He's just a gamer, man. I love Oakland's draft. I'm sorry, the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that'll happen all season, but yeah, my only thing, I'm not a big Henry Ruggs person. I think he was like 3rd in production last year at Alabama for wide receivers. I mean, he's got a ton of speed, so I mean, maybe he can play better in the NFL with more spacing and everything, but hard to tell. But yeah, all the other draft picks had solid picks. They had definitely had one of the better drafts, I think. With him, I'm not sure how badly is he injured with that cut, Henry Ruggs, because he cut his leg or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it would be too bad. You know what I mean? I don't think it's gonna really hold him back too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think again, I feel like we keep talking about this. Besides the Chiefs, biggest question mark, man, goes back to the hardest position in football, and it's quarterback. The Raiders are going to go as far as Derek Carr takes them. Do they turn to Mariota if Derek Carr struggles? I don't know. John Gruden, we haven't seen him in a long time. It's his 3rd year back. He is kind of a wild card, man. He's the dude who's pounding the table loving Nate Peterman. So you don't know. But it is one of those things where they're starting to fill out that, they have Renfro still. Waller was awesome last year, a huge surprise with Ruggs, with Edwards. They're starting to fill in that offense. Jacobs was great as a rookie. Probably should have won Rookie of the Year, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he had a great season. Was it like 1,100 yards? I'm not sure how many touchdowns. Yeah, definitely a solid season, but I mean, he could have been the potential for it.
And their defense, really came along. And like I said, they added a ton of pieces that's going to help. But like I said, it just boils down to Derek Carr, and which kind of, brings me to the question is, where do you think the Las Vegas Raiders are going to fare in the AFC West?
I think they'll be bottom of the barrel.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I just think with their top 2 offensive weapons being Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs, which I really like Josh Jacobs, but I mean, that's not the best. Like, I just think if you look at all of their teams and like the weapons they have in the AFC West, I don't know how they stack up. I feel like they definitely had the least amount of talent on their team. Look at the way the Broncos surrounded Drew Lock, and he's just surrounded by talent. And then, not like trying to like talk bad about Hunter Renfro, but is he like as comparable like receiver as like the receivers they have in Denver and the Chiefs? And I don't know. I just don't see it talent wise with the Las Vegas Raiders.
And I definitely see what you're saying with the AFC West. It's a weird division. I feel like Kansas City could be the best team in the West and everybody else sucks. And I'd be like not surprised at all. Or, KC and 2 other teams can make the playoffs out of that West, and I wouldn't be that surprised. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Raiders finish 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Denver, same thing. The Chargers, same thing. It's just that 2, 3, 4 spot in the West is weird because, a lot of, Denver to the Chargers, it plays at that quarterback position. Tyrod Taylor's the guy who's not going to make a ton of plays with his arm, but he's not going to turn the ball over. Drew Lock's the guy who's the unknown. Derek Carr's the guy who had one season where he, might have even should have won MVP. It's how good he was, broke his leg, it's never been the same since. It's that question at the same position for all three teams. The Raiders probably have the least amount of talent on offense out of those guys, but they're probably the least amount of question marks as far as, they don't really have any players that are aging out that were big playmakers. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. So let's go into what's your 2020 prediction for the Raiders?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to finish. I think they're going to take a step back, finish 5-11. That's what I have them finishing right now. A big thing for that is I look into like point differential for the different seasons, and last year I think they had a negative 106 point differential. So I think finishing 7-9 was, extremely lucky for them. I mean, you can't have that big of difference of point differential, and then, continue to get 7-8 wins a season. So I definitely think they take a step back, and finish. I had them at 5-11.
And that's a great point, because a lot of times when, like, the NFL, like, if you look at the stats, man, if you win your, like, games within 3 to 4 points one season and you have a positive record, the next season it always flips.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Weird like that, man. It really does almost break down to 50-50, where if you go, 6-3 one season in close games, the next year you go 3-6. It's weird like that. So that is a great point. I think that, like I said, man, that division's tough. I think they're a solid team, but I don't think they improve, much to what you said. I kind of see a 6-10, maybe a 7-9. It could be a little bit better. It could be a little bit worse. I do think the Raiders are probably going to be in the basement as far as that AFC West. But I don't think, like, saying that they're the worst team in the AFC West, I'm not saying they're one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I think that's one thing that I'm kind of worried about with their record is that, other than Kansas City, the AFC West kind of just beats up on themselves. Like, each one takes one win from each other, and then it just doesn't, like, no one really stands out between the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Raiders, that they're just kind of like a mesh of just mediocre teams.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Any of those, three teams that's not the Chiefs could, break out, or they could just, 3-13. It really could go either way. Which kind of brings me to my parting shot is, let's go to John Gruden. I don't think John Gruden's a bad coach at all. Okay, I don't. I think people really just it was funny. When John Gruden wasn't coaching, everybody wanted him to come back to coaching. And then John Gruden came back to coaching. They're like, I don't know why he's coming back to coaching. Games passed him by. But you got to pick one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's a bad coach at all. But when he signed that contract, it looked bad. And now the contract's starting to look even worse.
Yeah, it definitely – oh, sorry, keep going. Go ahead.
No, that's tough, man, because they signed him 10 years. So I don't know what you do.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem great. And I'm not sure like how with the buyouts and everything like that, but I don't see him finishing out the 10 years on that contract. I don't know. Maybe, I guess they did improve 4-12 to 7-9 last year, but I don't see it as a great improvement in the team as much as just maybe a few extra wins that, like you said, just close games that they happen to win. So I don't see him turning around. Like, I know he's supposed to be like that great quarterback whisperer, but we just, didn't see anything really improve from Derek Carr. And is that on Derek Carr? Is that on John Gruden? Who knows? Like you said, he was all in on Nathan Peterman. And who else was trying to get him on their team? I don't see it, but who knows?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I feel like this is a big season for Gruden. As far as we're starting to see, like, the third year in, you're going to start to see his guys in the system, which is always tough as a coach. Yeah. You're playing with somebody else's picks, and you're playing with somebody else's. I think him and Mike Mayock have done a good job in everything. I think they handled the Antonio Brown situation appropriately, where they tried everything they could to keep this guy on board.
Yeah.
And then after a certain point, you're like, I got cut bait. And it looks like they were right, because Antonio Brown has lost his damn mind.
Yeah, I don't think they could have done anything better in that situation other than the way they did it. yeah, I think it was just all on him. Like they tried to do everything right by him, but it wasn't going to work out. He wanted to go to the Patriots, it seems like.
And it was a great trade. Like I understand that, like, they gave up some small assets. They traded the third rounder. But it's one of those things where, like, yeah, for the best receiver in the league, and if you're thinking like, hey, maybe he can be less crazy with us, you take that chance.
Yeah, I don't fault them at all for trying to get him on the team. Like, yeah, exactly. If you don't want to say the best top 3 receiver in the game when he's the last couple of years when he was playing. So I definitely think you have to try to do anything to get him on a team. It's almost like Randy Moss, where you try to get him on your team and just hope he can act better, and because you know what kind of talent he has.
Sure, that's 100% right. So if you guys like the content, help us out. Click like, subscribe, like our video, all that fun stuff. Check out our other teams that we've broken down in the AFC West, and we'll continue to go throughout the NFL and do predictions for every other team. So until then, we'll see you guys next time.